Even for White Hat case, very interesting example. Investor came to him and said, boss, these big players are doing, this channel also, they're doing this marketing also, brand marketing also, all of this. You guys are just doing 2-3 channels and I'm not sure what's happening. You're not diversifying all of that, right? He thought about it and he mentioned this in his video. मेरे लिए क्या चल रहा है? Like what's working for me? Facebook ads is working. Can I double it down? Yes. Can I scale it further? Yes. Then why spend any energy of my team in any other project? Go bulls. And his whole growth was just that. We think our inefficiency to make a channel work, we put it and think about maybe there are some other channels that will work. It's not like that. You don't, in 0 to 1, you don't think about, will this channel work for me or not? You start thinking, how can I make this channel work? But that's one team to drive that metric. अब उसके लिए कुछ भी करना पड़े. Like उसके लिए मुझे झाड़ू भी लगाना है वो metric drive करने के लिए, या मुझे रोड पे जाके pamphlet बांटनी है, कुछ भी करना है. Like I will do it to drive that metric. Metric becomes my North Star.
Hi everyone, welcome to episode 8 of the Airtribe Podcast. Today we have with us Rohit Kumar, the head of growth at sugar.fit. With a reputation as a creative and a metric-driven problem solver, Rohit has mastered the art of 0 to 1 growth and beyond. Previously a growth leader at QMath, he is known for his expertise in performance marketing and generously sharing his actionable insights on LinkedIn. Hey Rohit, nice to have you on the podcast today. Since we met last time, I have been thinking about growth as a role and its evolution and its importance in the industry. I was wondering, what is growth according to you and how you got into the role in the first place?
See, for me, business is paramount and growth, there are multiple names. I think you just took one. There is growth marketer, growth hacking. There might be multiple names there, but end of the day, all of it has to drive the business. So that is a key thing, and there has to be key metrics associated with it. So that's how I see growth roles. So if someone comes, it's a growth or business development, like end of the day, how it is influencing the business. That's the key thing. How I came into growth and growth roles, my journey has been very interesting. Like I was a coder for 3 years. I was a software engineer with Samsung. So that side taught me the reasoning skills and how to think logically. As I said, separate, noise from signals. So that's how, and then I did my MBA 2 years there. And post that, I joined a startup called QMath. And my role was, first role I got into was leading an inside sales team. There I learned about how to speak with customers, and I used to be on the floor where I used to lead a team, but I was never been a sales. I've not got from bottoms and up, right? I was directly leading a sales team where folks around me were actually picking up the phone and dialing. So the first thing I knew to lead the team, I need to know what's the work to be done, right? So day one, I said, stop managing first, let's start dialing. And I started doing it, got better at communicating and how to pitch to users and how to convert sale and all of that. Let that team realized, I think we were doing a demand acquisition then, realized I think supply was not enough. That was a bigger problem. So irrespective, I pitched to even stop my own team. It doesn't make sense right now, let's get in supply. So then I got into supply generation, getting teachers, multiple onboarded, activating their centers. So our key metric was, we knew that if we got 3 students in a center, that center flourishes, 3 to 10 journeys. That 3 is the tipping point for us. And then how we, I got into that as a project. So I was handling different projects at different point of time. Then I got into managing a city, handling P&L for a city, Bangalore, and rest of India as well for some time. And then I got an opportunity to lead a performance team, which was a very different experience also. I didn't know it, but I knew in my head I wanted to go into marketing. When I was in IMB and I was working, studying there, I realized the best part I associate with is the consumer behavior. I used to love it. Like what kind of messaging works with them, what kind of communication works with them, how to display it, all of that. So I knew I wanted to do in marketing. Even I've mentioned to you before as well, in my sales interview, when they asked me what is the question you have, I said, can I draft my email SMS campaigns, and not about sales as such. So I knew it. I wanted to go into marketing. So I took up that role and I learned it, and good 2 years, 3 years went there studying about that role, getting better. And then from performance, moved into handling different projects. So I started to understand performance is one channel. Then comes another channel, let's say organic, SEO, started to add it up as a skill set. I moved to CamK12 for some short duration, and then I moved to sugar.fit, where right now I'm handling the growth piece, where there are different channels I'm managing. So that has been my journey towards growth, starting from being a software engineer, moving to inside sales, leading some growth projects, then eventually moving to performance marketing, and then leading other channels as well and handling overall growth piece. So, yeah.
Got it. What is performance versus growth?
Yeah. So, see, growth, as I said, is business, right? Now, business can be driven by various channels. It can be online, offline, can be one way to segregate it. Then you go in deeper in online, it can be paid, organic. In paid, then you further double tap and say it's through performance-led channels. But performance-led channels is simple, like we say performance marketing, where whatever you do is performance-driven. You're not doing it just for spending the money or getting something out of it. You need to get an output or ROI associated is with whatever money you're spending. And it can be Facebook, it can be Google, any other channels. Now in paid, it can also be affiliates. In paid, it can be partnerships, because nothing is free, right? You need to have some kind of a transaction there. What they are giving you as placements and what you want to do with them. Organic, again, it's SEO, referral, multiple other channels can build up content around social channels and social media, all of that. So performance is in growth, online, offline. Online, again, got deeper into paid and organic. In paid, also one aspect of it is performance, where whatever you spend money, you are accountable for it, where you need to get the output for it, right? And that's the one piece for growth. But growth is like it's anything that drives growth. If, let's say, I figure it out tomorrow, offline business is making more economical sense to me, doesn't matter. Like as a growth person, one has to optimize for offline. Then can't say like I want to run just performance, I want to run just organic or SEO. So growth is like a overall business, whatever drives that business.
When you say drives the business, I think you are trying to say anything that helps with user growth or revenue growth is the output of growth.
Not even revenue growth, not even user acquisition. Dhanda banega ki nahi banega in a essential sense. That growth has to be accountable for. Growth is not just user acquisition. Let's say if a user is acquired, assuming acquired activate is same, like in the kind of companies I've worked, where you, as soon as you get in users, they pay the huge amount of money and then automatically get activated. But in typical sense, acquisition, you acquire a user, you activate them, then you monetize, and that whole funnel renewal and all of that. But growth has to own everything. Business doesn't become sustainable just with acquisition, right? Acquisition at what cost? At the same time, can I upsell him? Anything else? Can I add more value in his life? At the same time, I have to keep adding value. So renewal also becomes part. It's not like renewal is just also part of product. Again, yes, product becomes a critical function there, but growth also has to own it. And now you must have heard this term around product growth. So eventually how I'm seeing is, earlier the things were in silos. Now everyone has started to realize everything leads to one thing, which is business. So like dhanda kaise banega in a sense, right? So product also has to come in and pitch in some way. So I think there was one post around from, I don't remember that company, around that they've changed that whole model about some growth or just product function to product growth function. It was, I think, Airbnb.
Yeah.
So that's how I think it's evolving like that. And end of the day is business.
Growth as a function is relatively new in the industry.
Yes.
Compared to something like engineering or design. And I think there is a lot of misconception about it. I keep hearing different views on where growth should sit. Should it sit in marketing or should it sit in a product? What do you think?
I never see it that way. For me, see, when I'm thinking, it's very confusing in my head. Where do they sit? They should sit where the business is there, like in a very simple sense. End of the day, it's not product is not driving the business. Product is also driving the business in some sense, right? Be it renewal, whatever metric, whatever thing they're doing with the product has to drive or impact some of the other business metric, as I mentioned to you. So growth, and that's where product growth, everything is started to come in, right? Growth is in a sense, if it is business, then marketing and product are parts of it as well. For me, marketing is not separate function as growth, or marketing is what? Like, you're marketing for what? You're marketing it for user acquisition, to get people in. People get in, what happens? Growth will happen, right? You're building products for what? When the users get acquired, you deliver the service so that they can renew. They stay with you. When that happens, then what happens? Growth, right? So essentially, everyone is doing just that. So it's like, naam anek sabka malik ek, right? Like, kuch bhi keh lo, like, hai to ek hi cheez hi. So for me, it's not like where they sit, where they don't sit. Bhai, jahan baithna hai, baitho. Business, dhanda banana hai. That's a sense. That's a key thing.
Got it. Based on what you are saying, I feel like it's also, a function of size of the team and the product that they are building. For a product-led company, maybe growth can be done by people in product itself.
It's a great point. I think as you were asking this question, I was thinking, where can that line be drawn? So in companies, I think there are two categories of companies, right? Where the function is of product-led growth. Their growth has to sit with product. I think in a sense, if I just technically answer that question, yeah. Where, let's say, I'll give you examples with the companies I've worked, or I'm working, QMAS, SugarFit. It's very simple, right? You get users in, there's a lead that's submitted, there's a sales team that gets called, or like marketing function that do webinars, whatever is it, they get converted, and that the product is there but it's a converted user. Only after the conversion happens, the product play comes into the picture. Hence, you can still say, marketing is where user acquisition primarily there, marketing growth till they get acquired. And product is, once they get acquired, everything, how we deliver the services, everything is said with this product. But again, it's interrelated. It's it's not right to say, if I say it's just ends, the product is also in the beginning as well, where you explain about your services, all of that. So, but you rightly said, where in companies like Spotify or like such product companies, there it's like what marketing is product is marketing, where the user acquisition, in itself, the product starts. Freemium kind of services, right? In free trial, still you can kind of say product is separate or marketing. You can still say to some extent, but in freemium, where the user is using a product and then taking a call whether they should buy up services completely, premium services, then product play is there. Then growth is product, like as you were mentioning. So yes, that factor comes in, where what is the nature of your acquisition? That may decide if you really want to answer where will they sit, that may decide. If the nature of acquisition is where, while acquisition, product play is not that much, I'm directly getting it into the user, they're seeing the services and they're buying it, then growth is with marketing. Where if it is product-led, like services like Spotify or any freemium services, then it is the other way.
That was a very good example, actually. I think marketing and product both think in terms of, marketing will be more responsible for awareness and acquisition part of things. And a product, once you have acquired a user, whether it's a free user or a paid user, it will be responsible for, engagement, retention side of things. But growth is one function that has to, think end to end.
End to end.
They have to oversee how we are creating the awareness, to how we are, retaining the user, doing referral campaigns out of it, and up to monetization depending on, the nature of the product.
One of the other way how in my think it's easier to think and execute is driven by metrics. And I think we did it in QMath also. I think Manan developed this pod structure, and I loved it. That's where I got introduced with this structure. And now it makes sense to me a lot. Where it was, what is the top 3-4 metrics that will drive my business growth for all of us? And we labeled it down by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Top 3. And all these 3 metrics will have 3 different pods. in that pod, there can be a product guy also, so-called product guy, so-called marketing guy, so-called tech guy. But that's one team to drive that metric. अब उसके लिए कुछ भी करना पड़े, लाइक उसके लिए मुझे झाड़ू भी लगाना है वो मेट्रिक ड्राइव करने के लिए, या मुझे रोड पे जाके पैम्फलेट बांटनी है, कुछ भी करना है, लाइक आई विल डू इट टू ड्राइव दैट मेट्रिक. Metric becomes my North Star. One has to be very clear if they're working in a company today, like what is the metric that I'm owning? If you're not clear, I think you should ask your manager, should ask your person somewhere. And I think people may say there are some roles where there is no metric, it's very qualitative and subjective. There is no, I understand there might be some subjectivity. Let's say designers, bhai, CTR lao, that creatives will be used somewhere, right? That creatives will be designed by designers. It will impact your performance. Might be click-through rate, might be your CAC. End of the day, it's CAC. They're impacting that, and CAC will impact your business. Then that person is owning that metric.
Mm-hmm. That's very interesting perspective.
So owning a metric has to be the key thing. क्योंकि मुझे सिर्फ ये समझ आता है, and that's what I was mentioning to you, कि pod structure में how it happened is there was a metric. So ensure to succeed whatever org you're in, what metric you're owning, and just go all into, like, then there is no thinking around कि मेरे designation क्या है या मेरा क्या नहीं है. If it takes to do some product thing, you do product thing. Then you can't say कि नहीं मैं तो marketing के लिए आया था, मुझे product का काम करवा रहे हो, या मैं product के लिए आया था, मेरे को तो आप sales call करवा रहे हो. नहीं भाई, metric कौन कर रहे हो आप? Product is where your majority of a skill set is. We will use that. Obviously, you will contribute in that sense. But whatever it takes, it's a ship. अगर वो drown हुआ तो तुम भी जा ही रहे हो in any sense. Like तुम बचने वाले तो वैसे भी नहीं हो. Ship afloat नहीं हो तो तुम कैसे बचोगे? चाहे तुमने अपना काम कर दिया हो, doesn't matter, no? If it goes down, you will also go down. So I think that as a, like, I would want companies to follow this metric-driven structures. You can name it whatever you want to name it, product growth, functions within it. But I love that structure where and see how aligned people will be. कि मैं तो metric, like instead of designation there in head or function is there in the head, every moment of the day they'll be reminded of that metric.
Because metric is very easy to tie to the impact.
And everyone is impacting that.
Yeah.
I think instead of saying growth product, where this should, I think metric-driven pods, if we create, and do it as an experiment for 2 months. We also did it. Experimented for 1 month. See what are your core metrics. List it down. Then you also will be 100 metrics will come in your head. Arey, ye bhi karna. Then it will take you will feel that pain to prioritize. Ki bhaiya ye 3 metric hai, ya ye 5 hai. Now I have to create pods. You might not have 5 tech team members. Again, that's fine. But again, you'll say, okay, this metric is prior, and tech can share that. But at least you will know what to prioritize and where to prioritize.
I think the number of metrics will depend on the stage of the company. But in most cases, I think just 2 to 5 metrics should be more than enough.
More than enough. Otherwise, you're in all directions and going in none.
That means growth is less of a function and more of a mindset.
Mindset will just...
And the job of someone in your position or in my position would be to build a growth mindset in the company where everyone thinks like, okay, these are the key metrics of the business. In my role, what kind of projects I should pick so that I can optimize, some of these key metrics. When they start thinking like that, they will automatically be a stronger part of the business.
Yes. And one way to do that is to set OKRs. That's why I think I love OKR structure. Again, what I hate about OKRs is in 0 to 1 stage, it changes a lot. Because how can you plot an OKR for 3 months when you don't even know what your next day will be or what metrics you...
I can totally relate with this because I have been trying to set it up for the last few weeks.
Yeah. It will change.
And by the time I reach some clarity, things have changed.
So again, I mold OKR. So I have this OKR plus version where instead of that, I set metrics. Metrics won't change to drive it. Some metrics won't change. Projects to drive that metric will change.
Yes.
One day you figure organic growth, we have to lower the CAC. Organic growth is one lever. You say, let's do SEO. You figure it out by doing this, it's not working. Maybe you find other approach. Now, you took a different project, but that person's metric is still constant. That is not changing. In OKRs, what the problem is, they define projects also, and they do this. But I think the best way is just define metrics. Projects can keep changing. Some metrics will still remain constant. But again, do whatever it takes to meet you. And this metrics also not change too often, and it should not change for too often as well. For 0 to 1 projects, you change as often as soon as you realize some experiment and you think it's not working, you change it. But metric, let's say you define it, at least think about it, define it, 3 months, 1 month, it should be there. And I'll tell you, in 0 to 1, it's not about how many different channels or how many different multiple projects you work upon, how big is your team. It's about how you pick 1, 2, 3 great things and just execute it. Even at a scale of a 10 CR revenue a month, there will always be only 2, 3 channels that is bringing you the majority of the revenue. And that will be there. Even for white hat case, I think Karan Bajaj in his videos has always mentioned it. Very interesting example. Investor came to him and said, boss, these big players are doing, this channel also, they're doing this marketing also, brand marketing also, all of this. You guys are just doing 2, 3 channels and I'm not sure what's happening. You're not diversifying, all of that, right? He thought about it. He went ahead and thought. Then he thought, and he mentioned this in his video, मेरे लिए क्या चल रहा है? What's working for me? Facebook ads is working. Can I double it down? Yes. Can I scale it further? Yes. Then why spend any energy of my team in any other project? Go bulls. And his whole growth was just that. Tracking performance, meta ads, YouTube ads, all of that. He just went all in. Because it's become interesting and you start thinking, अरे और channels ढूंढते हैं. We think our inefficiency to make a channel work, we put it and think about maybe there are some other channels that will work. It's not like that. You don't, in 0 to 1, you don't think about, will this channel work for me or not? You start thinking, how can I make this channel work? है तो सबके लिए same ही. And then he went ahead and said, whatever it takes to optimize for it. Landing page. And you see the whole white hat, I think the journey, and people may say whatever they may say, but I love the way they have approached performance, specifically white hat.
What are the key traits you look for when you hire for a growth role? And also, what kind of traits make them, into a great growth person? It can be a growth marketing role, it can be a product growth role, but given your long experience in in a role like this, I think you must have seen some patterns. You must have some insights there.
So, while hiring for growth roles, there are 2 sub dimensions. One is specific dimensions for the kind of metric I'm optimizing for at that stage. Growth person can optimize for multiple metrics, right? Again, whatever is my key metric that I have in my mind that I'm hiring that person for, name will be growth. Even if it's working for an ad creative, you can say it's a growth role. Even if it's optimizing for a performance, you can say it's a growth role. Ideally, it's a part of growth role or some other projects. So one is specific dimension, where what is specific to what key metric that I need to drive. Then my questions and my discussions will be around it when I discuss a person. Another is generic. In generic, there are 2 things again. One is problem solving approach or thinking from first principles. That for me is a deal breaker. Even if specific is check, everything is check. If problem solving is not there, then sorry, I can't. Because in stage of startups or in anywhere else, you have to, that person has to solve problems. He will be, unknown problems will be there all the time, right? And he or she might not have done it before. Can he think from first principles or not? Or he say, I don't know. You know it is not the job. Will you figure it out?
Yeah.
Or not? I'm not looking for problems. You'll come back, Rohit, I have this 3, 4, I'm stuck here. Nahin. Rohit, I have this 3, 4 problems. I'm thinking there are 2, 3 more solutions that I'm going to, you have anything else in mind? That conversation I can have with you. If you come and cry with me कि भाई मेरे 3, 4 problems हैं, मेरी ज़िंदगी आसान नहीं, भाई मेरा काम नहीं है वो. That's not my job. आप बताओ, right? So first is problem solving and thinking from first principles. Second is you can say the will/attitude. And how to judge it is, will you want to hang out with that person? Will you want to have, played in the same team? Let's say if I play basketball, can this person will be in my basketball team or not? Can I trust that person? And that happens. That's also a gut instinct. You speak to that person, you understand, कि यार इसकी मेरी जमेगी, मस्त बंदा है, like मजा आएंगे, like we'll have a lot of time, because when you are working in startups or you will spend a lot of time together, वो एक will और एक attitude is super critical. Skills you can still teach someone.
Yeah.
What about will and attitude? It's very difficult to mold or teach someone that.
So Rohit, your background is a little unique. Like, started as an engineer, then into sales, then into growth. But now when you look at, the kinds of people that you have hired and the people that you have seen in the industry, which background do you think helps the most when, somebody wants to move to growth?
Yeah, I see there is no correlation of background with a specific growth role, because how I'm seeing in my head is all the people I've worked with, people who have really contributed or created an impact, what were their backgrounds? And I couldn't find any commonality right now.
So are you saying if they have some of the traits that you talked about, anyone can get into growth, whether they are from an engineering background or a design background
Doesn't
or
matter.
from a marketing background?
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter much.
Rather, if it is a non-common background, I would say that's an add-on. That will be beneficial. Let's say most of the marketing person generally comes from sales. So if that's one thing, whereas you got a journalist who was doing journalism and he wants to do marketing. So that's an add-on, because he'll add a different perspective in the conversations, because will be seeing with same perspective. Similarly with engineering background, majority will be engineers. But if that person has a different background, he will add that perspective. He'll have different experience. See, in my case also, I was able to contribute in performance marketers. They don't start their journey with sales. Very rarely, I have not seen it yet. Or they start with business. Performance marketers is they come, generally the pathway is you graduate, you directly learn about, do some certifications and directly do performance marketing, go in. Now I can think in my sense, since I knew business, I went to door of every teacher when I was in QMAR. I saw how kids are being taught because I was in business. For me, I've spoken to parents. I did those so many events, sessions. I've spoken to parents one-on-one. What does the mother feel? What does the father feel for their kid, for their education? What is kid feeling about what both of them is feeling? What does teacher feel? That gave me a perspective to create performance ads.
Got it.
Where if it have come from performance marketing, then I would have read a LinkedIn post or some person was speaking how ads should be done, and I would have done the same.
And never spoke to any of the customers.
I never spoke to any of the customers. And majority of my day, I remember in business, I think it was a very great culture, and I've learned from, I think my colleagues and my seniors there, you have to meet customers. Once a month, so it's like low I'm saying, but every week they should be having that pulse check, what's happening. And I remember late Govind, he every quarter used to visit different cities. Not just I've met Mumbai, so I'll not go in Chennai. Every place has a different culture, speaking to different needs and understanding the consumer pulse. For me, that helped. Because since I was from business background where I did a lot of business, I knew what is the pain point, what exactly parents go through. And that helped me craft better communication, better messaging for my ads. And I can really see that difference. Whereas a person who directly comes performance, he'll just think it from same PAS framework, problem, agitation, solution, before, after, all that generic principle, social proof. But उसमें भी क्या बोलना है? Where will it hit that consumer when he's hearing that ad out? अरे यार ये कुछ बोल दिया इसने, right? You know that pulse only when you're there with them. So for me, that background helped me. So similarly, the more non-common your background is, I feel the better it is. That means you are bringing a different perspective.
Particularly for a team, like if you have multiple people in growth in a team, they coming from different backgrounds will actually complement each other's skills. There is one more thing I wanted to talk about, Rohit. In any companies, there is a lot of tension between sales and marketing teams. What is that you have done in, to reduce that tension? Because I think sugar.fit, these companies have employed a different kind of, a structure. I would want to know more about that.
So again, as I said, it may sound repetitive, but metrics, right? So we have a growth function and you say everything is tied to it. So all performance marketer is also like growth function. Sales team is also working in the growth function, and that's how it is. And growth works so closely with sales. I think you won't believe, like sales, like our sales head or person who is leading the team, we all sit together, we'll discuss our campaigns, we discuss everything. Because the person who is getting leads can give that perspective to sales, and sales team can give back that perspective. But if both are disjoint and optimizing for different metrics, then it will never work. If sales team also get a perspective that, yes, you need good leads, but that good leads also come at some cost. What if my CAC is better, that I might give you 20% lesser quality leads, but my cost of acquisition will be very good in that scenario? Is that good for you? Or if I can give you hundreds of leads, will that good for you? Now, if a person is a performance marketer, he will think, boss, leads lana hai mera kaam to, as a growth function. I'll give you at whatever leads. Conversion chahe low ho, as CAC can remain the same. Low CPL, cost of lead is low, you get a lot of leads. But your conversion rate will also be low.
Yeah.
You get some CAC, let's say X. Your CPLs are high, but your conversion rates are also high. What if that CAC is also X, given the ticket size is also same? Know which one you prioritize. Performance marketers will always go for, if they're optimizing just for leads, the number of leads they're bringing, the CPL is a metric, then he will always fall for, bhaiya, let me get you more leads. CPL is very low, I'm doing my work. Sales team will keep crying, like so many leads, I need more people to action those leads, right?
Yeah.
But if all work for one common goal, if I'm getting a revenue, at what cost? ROI. Or you can say CAC, there are different ways, but everything is same, return on whatever spends you're making. Then performance marketer will also realize that if my overall cost of my sales team will also be lower, if they action on limited leads, but the conversion rates are higher, then they don't need to action on so many leads. If that inside sales team and they both have that understanding, then performance marketer will also, even if CPLs are high, he will try to bring in quality leads because he value the time of a salesperson. Now, performance marketer is understanding sales, and even sales is also understanding why, like what's the shift, what kind of leads to bring in, why I can't bring a specific leads of a specific campaign, because you say, but the cost doesn't even make sense. I have to spend too much money, my campaigns won't be optimized. So all of these two things can happen if they're not optimizing for their own metrics. If they're optimizing for a common metric, there has to be someone either in the team or as a person who binds these two together and go for a common goal.
That always is a function of the org structure in companies. What is that you guys are employing right now? Like who reports to whom? Like, because what you are saying sounds very good in theory, but like having a common metric across marketing or growth and sales, it's very tricky.
Yes.
How have you solved that?
So see, sales at the end of the day, they will optimize for revenue as well, right? That's their key North Star metric. But as a performance marketer, CPL should not be a metric. You should be your cost of acquisition, because you are controlling at what spend, what is the money coming back to you. But if both, and that performance marketer also has to understand revenue is a metric. Like I can bring lower CAC at a lower scale also. Next day, I'll remove half of your 50% budget. Your CAC will be very decent. You'll be happy, but that's not the point, right? As I always say, you scale, you have to increase scale, but at the same time, lower the CAC. That is the ideal utopian world where we have to go towards, or we have to think about how to achieving that.
Yeah.
Is it that true? Is that achievable? That's a separate topic. But that's what he's also optimizing for. So revenue, he's also optimizing. Revenue is also optimizing. So both sales, there's a growth function. Sales team is also there within growth function. Performance team is also there within growth function. You can say marketing, brand team is also there within growth function. They're not disjoints or like two different entities where their heads are different and their heads are different and they both don't even speak to each other. We have a common person who binds both of them.
Let's address the elephant in the room. I think we talked so much about performance and how it can help in growth. But given the market, things are very tight right now. Most investors are not writing checks anymore, and most growth stage companies are also cutting down on their budgets in performance. And they all have to figure out, other channels. I would love to hear your thoughts on how should growth teams approach, growing their business in this market while not relying, that much on performance.
So basically, how I see performance is, it's like an oxygen mask with you that will help you move from one point A to point B. while you're on oxygen mask, are you setting up your processes that once that oxygen mask goes off at point B, have you built that environment or have you seeded that plants around you so that can give you oxygen or not? Okay. Have you done that or not? How people approach is they wear an oxygen mask. Imagine there is no air or there is no oxygen. They wear the oxygen mask, but they don't even put in efforts to grow a plant or grow that environment where there is an oxygen around it. And then they blame performance when the point B reaches that, hey, no, nothing works. There is no fit. There's no TG, this fit and all of that. So think of it, there's an oxygen mask with you. And I say there is also a reason for it. Imagine tomorrow, Meta is down, shuts down, right? So you can't do ads on Facebook, IG. Let's say Google is down, you can't do search ads, you can't do YouTube. How many of us will die? Death around. So that tells us we have dependency, we all have to accept it. And it's required for initial push, that's also required. Because how will you get in users and instantly and get that loop to improve your product and keep getting better at it? You need to get some users, right? You don't have that much of time, you keep waiting. So that's important. But what we forget is that's an oxygen mask. It's not like an environment around you will always be there. Because see, at some point, not maybe in 0 to 1, but we went to N, at some point, the delta money you put in, the same delta which output that you used to get before won't be there. Yeah. It's a diminishing return phenomenon. Now, till that happens, what we forget is to plant those, seeds and grow them. That's what we say is an organic. Yeah. But organic also, people think more like organic, they think as a linear way, where they think it's social, where I put something and I get it, or SEO, where I put my content out, they're searching for it, they get it. But most critical experts, they forget about is referrals. Because why are you doing all of this, all your projects, all of your growth projects, is because at some day, not too far, but let's say somewhere down the line, where my referral will kick in. And that has to become like a good, decent source of all percentage contribution to overall revenue. And that's why you're optimizing your product also for, right? Because if your product is good, referrals will kick in. And that's also a key metric for product market fit is what we say. Like as Karan Bajaj says again, 50-50-50. You hit a PMF. Right now PMF is vague. How do you say a PMF? Is there a quantifiable way to say you have hit a PMF, or is it subjective way to say, you have hit a PMF, I have done it? People generally associate revenue with PMF. If I've hit X revenue, I'm a PMF. I've done it PMF. That's not the right way. Have you hit 50% referral, 50% your NPS, 50% renewal? If all these three things are set, you have hit your PMF at a scale of 1 CR. Again, scale is very important. Lower scale पर सब कुछ हर कोई कुछ भी ले आएगा, right? At a decent scale of let's say 1 CR revenue that you can
When you say 1 CR per month or per year?
Per month.
Okay, got it.
Basically, that's also, let's say X. X is in decent scale. I'm assuming for some company, 1 CR might be too low or might be too high. Depends upon where their stage, what is their product, all of that. So, in this whole, the oxygen mask will be off. And you can survive when these three things are there. Referral, renewal, NPS. If you have not worked or not dedicatedly worked towards all of these aspects and think about removing your oxygen mask, keep going low, you will die. Like there is no way around it. Hence, do performance. There is no debate around it. But start thinking about this engine. This engine of renewal, referral, that has to kick in. If that's not happening, and even if you're growing, that's a huge red flag.
One thing I wanted to highlight, I absolutely loved the analogy that you quoted, the oxygen mask analogy. And that's what performance is all about. Going from stage A to stage B, getting the first initial set of users so that you can talk to them, you can get feedback from them, keep improving the product. Instead of taking 5 years, you could do that in 6 to 12 months. And in that time, planting the seeds for organic. So that when you have to remove your oxygen mask, you have some contribution from some of those channels. I think that advice is very, very helpful. And this is where some products, some companies go wrong. Thank you so much, Rohit, for coming to the podcast and sharing all the insights and learnings with our audience. I actually learned so much. Every time I meet you, I learn so much from our conversations, and this was definitely one of the more action-packed discussions I had with you.
I think it's just, it's not me, it's a lot of people have contributed to it. I think I've been fortunate to meet different folks, people at different stages of my life. And all of this is just because of that and learnings and all of that. And I think you put across great questions, so credit goes to you to, build that up. So thank you so much for inviting. I loved discussing. Even though what I've contributed, I can think of different ideas that I need to implement now tomorrow. Because sometimes it's there in your head, it's always, sitting there in dormant phase. It's got activated. Even I'll do, go back and come back on a whiteboard and just think about what I...
That's a good win-win for both of us.
Yeah, 100%. So thank you so much for inviting. I loved speaking.
Thanks, Rohit.